Here, Fred, good to see you. Always looking forward to
Nice to
seeing
see you,
the clip and all
Harold.
that. Always good. And in the audience, welcome very much to Conversations, a real honest to God creative filmmaker, Fred Baker, who's been in the business for a very long time, done programs that we're going to talk about, films, and we're going to show us a couple of clips. And Fred, so very, 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 one more time, very happy to welcome you to the
I'm
set.
very happy to be here. Always am with you, Harold.
Yeah, and me. It goes without
Yeah,
saying.
and-
So, Fred Baker, share a little bit of your own background, please.
Well,
yeah?
I started as an actor.
Right.
I started very young as an actor.
Okay.
And I got very lucky.
Mm-hmm.
I started singing in public school.
Right.
You know, I was one of the singers, along with Vic Damone was getting popular in those
Right,
days.
right.
He was at the high school I went to.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah.
Well, he was just a bit before me.
Right. Okay.
So started singing and acting in high school.
Acting up.
Acting up as well.
All right.
Acting up
Good.
as
Glad
well.
to hear that. Glad to hear that.
And found myself after high school going to work and saying, well, what the hell am I doing? I've got all this talent. I was
Yeah.
told I had talent. You know?
Right. Okay.
And I was working as some linotype operator or something. You know.
Yeah, to make a buck, yeah.
To make a buck.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't go to college. I didn't know whether I was going to go to college. And then a friend of mine, Jerry Schultz, who was going to college, was in the drama department at University of Miami. And he said, when are you going to get down here, man?
Yeah.
This is so great. I'm
Yeah.
doing parts and plays.
Right.
Because he was in the
right.
Speakers Bureau at Lafayette High School.
Okay.
That was Brooklyn. Grew up
Right.
in Brooklyn.
Okay.
And so I just figured out some way with my old man about if I worked summers and as a busboy in the Catskills,
wow.
and then the Catskills.
Yeah.
That's where
The Borscht Belt.
The Borscht Belt.
Yeah.
They said I could sing.
Uh-huh.
I could do Hide Your Dreams at Night.
Well, sing,
You know-
sing.
Oh, if you want me to sing, I'll sing.
Yeah, so you can. I wouldn't mind you singing at all, man. Hide Your Dreams at Night. I didn't know that one. A lot of talent up in the Borscht Belt. There was a lot of good stuff
Did you see
happening.
the thing on Johnny Mercer last night?
Yeah, I did saw it.
Oh
See,
my
Johnny Mercer was
God,
something else,
what
right?
A brilliant,
Yeah.
prolific guy.
Yeah, I know he
You
really
see
was.
Betty Hutton?
I
Who,
didn't see that part. I knew
Arthur
that-
Murray taught me dancing in a hurry.
Yeah, that's
He
right.
taught me the da-da-da.
Was he with the Pied Pipers, or was he associated Johnny Mercer and Pied Pipers, or they just sing his stuff?
I think Helen O'Connell,
Helen O'Connell, yeah.
Bob Everly,
Yeah.
Johnny Mercer.
Yeah. Johnny Mercer was a
Pardon me,
hell of
boy.
a lure. Yeah.
Is that the Chattanooga Choo-Choo?
Track number 9.
And then Atchison,
Boy, you
Topeka.
can give
I
me
never
a
realized that
shine.
he had written
I left the Pennsylvania
Pennsylvania
station about a quarter to 4.
I'm
Read a
reading
magazine and then you're in
Baltimore.
Baltimore. Dinner in the diner, nothing could be finer than to have your ham and eggs in Carolina.
When you hear the whistle blow and ain't to the bar. Yeah, good
Yeah,
stuff.
right.
He was
They-
unbelievable.
Yeah, he was really good, Johnny Mercer. Yeah, that was a good
Yeah.
piece on 13 they had. Yeah.
Yeah.
A real talent. Yeah. And
A,
you were
B,
in
C,
that
D, E, F, G, H.
I got a gal in
Yeah.
Kalamazoo, zoo. Yeah. Pennsylvania 65000 or so
Oh,
was that
yeah,
his
yeah,
too?
all that stuff.
Yeah, the song after song, a real lyricist.
Well,
yeah.
he wrote over 2,000 songs.
You didn't know him at all, run into him at all.
No,
out
he
in
was
LA mostly.
just probably
A little early.
15, 20 years
Yeah.
my senior.
Yeah, right.
And so no, I had there was no chance.
Mm-hmm.
By the time I was running, well, going back to, so it was high school and then
Yeah.
some work in college, and then I got the bug.
A bug for film?
No, for
No.
acting,
Acting.
right out of the first year in college.
No kidding,
And
yeah.
I said, well, what am I doing, wasting my time
Right.
doing it here when I can do it.
Now, are you down in Miami or
I
no?
was down in Miami.
Yeah, okay.
And somehow or another, just found myself during one of the breaks
Uh-huh.
working at the Daily News. I always had to work. My father was the kind of dad that said, I don't care what you're doing, you don't hang out at the house, you work as long as you're over 16 years old.
Was that to work in order to make money?
In order to make money,
To buy
in order-
bread
in
and
order
get to have
con-
some pound cake on Sunday.
In
yeah.
order to contribute to the
Yeah.
household.
Oh,
It
to
was-
contribute to the household needs.
Yeah,
Right.
the
Yeah,
same,
right,
So
right.
my
right.
sisters and I were working people. We came from a working labor union family.
Oh, okay.
So I was working
Political? Were they political?
highly political.
Highly left-wing, I would hope.
Totally left wing.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
Communist.
Yeah, commies. Good.
Commies.
They were the real
Dyed in the
enemy
wool.
then.
Dyed in the wool.
Commies, yes. Yeah.
So I sang with Pete Seeger when I was a kid.
Did you really?
Yeah, I sang with Seeger. I sang with Robeson.
Robeson?
I sang with all. Yes.
How could you sing with
Well,
Robeson?
I sang. There was
Quietly.
no. I sang in his choral group.
Oh, in a choral group. Oh, that's
Yeah,
different.
and I sang solo. I sang.
In
What
the-
is America to me?
Yeah, go
A
ahead.
name, a map, a flag I see. A
Sing.
certain word, democracy. What
Sing.
is America to me?
That's Robeson?
The
They're with
house
Robeson? Yeah.
I live in. That's Earl Robinson,
Or, I don't know.
who was a leftist labor union songwriter, and he wrote "The House I Live In." And Frank Sinatra made that a big hit.
Did he really? Okay, yeah, right. Frank Sinatra was a great
Yeah,
talent.
and
yeah.
and he wrote for the choruses, the workers' union choruses.
Yeah.
He wrote Lincoln Train and all kinds of.
Yeah.
All kinds of
Did you get to know Robeson at all personally?
Very
or have
much.
a chance to have
Well,
coffee or something?
One of the things he did
Yeah.
is when I was in this camp, this interracial camp,
Right.
Camp
Good for you.
Wochica,
Yeah.
when I was 7 or 8, is that he came up and we were part of his choral group. The
Okay.
good singers,
Right.
the good kid singers, were made
Right.
into choral group.
Uh-huh.
And so he knew me, and he came up and he got out of a car, and I had a football.
Right.
So, and he was an all-star football player as well as one of the great singers and actors of our time.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, all right.
And so I threw him the football, and
Uh-huh.
he said, "Go ahead." And I
Go off for a
ran.
pass, right?
I ran, and he threw me a forward pass. It must have been about
40 yards or
at
something.
least 60 yards.
60.
And I caught it.
Good for you,
Yeah,
man.
I caught it.
Oh,
And
that's
that
good.
was one of the thrills of my
Yeah,
youth. But
yeah.
my performing it was like all round, camp, school. And so it was just a natural not to end up as a copy boy at the Daily News, which is what I was that particular summer.
Right.
And Ed Sullivan, remember Ed Sullivan?
Of course.
I was his
What
copy-
was it called? Toast of the Town? Or
Toast
what?
of the Town.
Yeah.
And I
Big
was his copy boy.
That was #1 thing to hit. That's when Elvis broke on that, and I think the Beatles and stuff
Yeah,
too
yeah.
broke. He was
Well,
big time.
this was later. This
oh,
was,
later, yeah, okay.
This was a bit later, and he said, he called me over, copy boy, and you'd go and you'd get his article, and he looked at me, he says, you told me you were an actor. You were a young actor, and I was 17, 16,
yeah,
17.
right.
He says, I just had lunch with Catherine Cornell
Wow.
and her husband, Guthrie McClintock, and they're looking for
That's acting, yeah.
He said they're looking for young sort of
Talent.
young tough little guys like you for a show called Bernadine. It's got 4 or 5 guys, and they were telling me about it, and they're casting it now.
All
Why
right.
don't you go and see, and I'll give them a call.
Did you go?
Absolutely.
You better have taken that up, yeah.
He said, go on your lunch hour, and
Yeah,
don't be late getting back. 'cause,
Right.
This little Irish head of the copy boys.
Yes.
He was about 63. He was still a copy boy.
Yeah.
Well, the long story short is I went,
Uh-huh.
and I met Guthrie McClintock.
Uh-huh.
And he took a liking to me, and he said, "You be at the Playhouse Theater at 8:00 in the morning.
I'll be
We're
there.
starting readings." And I was there, and I couldn't go back to work, and they cast me in the role.
They cast you in the role. Did you lose the gig?
I lost the gig.
Oh,
at the
dear
Daily News.
me, and the rest
No,
is
it was
history.
Great.
Oh, okay.
It was great. I was in a Broadway show.
Yes.
I was
Yeah.
17 or 16 and a half.
And your dad would have approved of that?
Well, not only approved of it, he paid for my Actors Equity initiation.
You got
fee.
into that, right? Yeah.
Had
right.
to.
Yeah, I had to.
And that was it. I mean, I was in a Broadway show by the time I was 16 or 17.
Good for you, yeah. And you were singing, or you were what? What
No, it was
lines?
It was a straight play.
You had lines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actor.
Yeah.
I played Tub Griner.
And it was a real role.
Oh yeah. Eventually, Pat Boone bought the rights and did that play in Hollywood. It's called Bernadine. By Mary Chase. She had written Mrs. McThing, and she had written 5 or 6 good Broadway comedies.
So you thought of yourself as an actor?
Didn't think of myself.
You
I
were an
was.
actor,
I
but you were
was.
also a singer.
I was
and
a
you're
singer
also a
actor.
very good catcher of footballs.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
it. That's
You were
it.
athletic?
Yeah, hockey, broke
Hockey?
arms, and
You played hockey?
roller hockey in Brooklyn.
Roller hockey.
Roller hockey on the
Okay.
streets.
I played ice hockey when I was a
Well,
kid.
I
I
never
was
got
in
to
Michigan.
never got to play
Had
ice
a lot of
hockey.
ice and stuff.
We played roller on the streets, where you wore your You wore your roller bearings down to about that big, and then you just ran around with the stick.
You also do stick ball or not?
Played stick ball
Did
like
you
crazy.
really?
I'll tell you the truth. There's a
Yankees
guy
just
called,
won the World Series now.
There's a guy called Jay Cusado.
Yeah.
That's a filmmaker, and he runs a thing called Park Slope Films. And
Okay.
I'm kind of a colleague of his
Right.
in that I try to help other independent filmmakers.
I know you do. Yeah.
Move their things out into the world.
Right.
And he's made a brilliant short film on
Uh-huh.
stickball.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
called Stickball.
Oh, good title, I'd
Yeah.
say. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And he makes other films, but that's one how I got to know him.
So you were in showbiz, kind of like that, at a tender age, relatively, and
Tender
then,
age, just a kid. I
Yeah.
mean, it was there by
Were you political? Have you
Always.
always been political?
Always.
Left wing.
always
right?
left wing.
Commies, right?
Commies.
fellow
I
travelers.
didn't join the party, but
You did not join the
No.
party, but you were in sentiment with the working class of the world.
I was in sentiment with the labor movement, the
Right,
progressive
okay,
labor movement
okay,
idea
yeah.
of workers need a break, always need a break.
Always, still
Capitalists never needed a break.
No, never.
Got all the breaks.
yeah, that's right.
Rich
yeah.
people got all the breaks.
Yeah.
And the workers never got a break.
Mhm.
And when they did start getting the breaks, the brakes were put on,
Mhm.
and the skids were put on, that the unions were corrupt.
Trying to
and
get a
this and
sense
that.
of the time now. When you were in that play on Broadway, what year would that have been about?
49, 50.
49, 50,
50,
okay.
51.
Right.
And it just hit 18, and boom, I got drafted into Korea.
You got drafted in Korea, and it was also, that was McCarthy time.
Yeah.
It was coming in, and the anti-communist
Yeah.
thing was
Actually, when
well,
I was-
Hoover and all that COINTELPRO was coming and everything.
Yeah. When I was in the Army, getting trained to go kill North Koreans,
Mm-hmm.
which I refused to do eventually, and
Good.
got almost AWOL.
You get a Section 8?
Almost Section 8 for that.
Mm-hmm.
My sister, my older sister, who was 6 years older than me,
Right.
was being blacklisted at CBS. Couldn't work. Lost her job at CBS
Political.
because of McCarthy.
Yeah, son
Because
of a bitch.
of the blacklist.
Right.
So
a lot of good people. Zero Mostel got
Oh yeah,
terrible.
Yeah, I knew Zero.
Did you know Zero? He was
Yeah.
I wept when he
Yeah,
passed.
yeah.
I wept big tears when
Well,
he passed.
there were all kinds of people taking
Yeah.
that drive, but I was caught up in this. Having got caught up in the Army, I couldn't fight it, except that when it finally.
Yeah, what did you do? How did you deal
Well, it
with
finally came
What
down
year
to-
was it you had to go in the service?
I went in I got drafted out of Broadway. It was mid-50s. I had to leave almost at the end of fifth month.
You and I are contemporary. I had to go in the Army. I was drafted in 54.
Well, I was a little before you.
I was in 54.
Yeah.
And I really did not like the Army at all.
Well, I hated
I mean,
it.
I really did not like
Well, I
it.
hated
Serious, you know.
But I lucked up only in the sense is that I had to go through hell to luck up in that when I was a medic. I was being trained as a medic.
Okay.
And I was in.
You were drafted.
Yeah, I was
2
drafted.
years.
2 years.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So I was in Seattle, and I was about to get on a troop ship, and that night I had some sort of physical, emotional epiphany, and I went stiff in my bed, wouldn't let them wake me up. It's like a
No.
psychological.
No kidding.
A psychological.
You were going to be put on the boat for Korea?
I was going to be put on
You
a
were gonna
boat
go
for
for
Korea
Korea.
that morning,
Wow.
and they threw me out the bed, and I just went stiff, and I knew nothing about
Were you unconscious?
peaceful, nonviolent
No. Right.
resistance. No, I wasn't unconscious at all.
But were you?
I just said I can't move my back.
Uh huh.
Can't move.
And you couldn't.
And I was sort of psychologically so inflicted.
And it was you.
And
Was that deeply based in the fact you didn't want to go over and kill people, or what?
I
Or
didn't
was
want
it?
to go kill anybody.
Yeah.
I didn't want to fight. I didn't believe in the war. I thought it was Dulles' manufactured.
Right.
I mean, that was at
Yeah.
least what I felt.
Yeah.
Is that it was totally manufactured, just as I felt Vietnam was.
Vietnam was a
was
horror.
It was was manufactured at the Gulf of Tonkin. I mean,
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
all our involvements overseas. I felt were just
They're all black. They're all what do you call them? False
manufactured for
flag
other
things.
reasons.
They're all false flag things were done by the geopolitical leaders that are just doing
Geopolitical oil.
cannon fodder. We're nothing but cannon
Yeah,
fodder.
I mean the same thing in Iraq and Iraq.
It still goes on.
Afghanistan.
Oh, Afghanistan now. Yeah, that was interesting. But then you also, so what happened? How did you get out of the Army? Did you get out with an honorable?
Yeah, I did get out with an honorable because what happened is that they put me into like a neuropsychiatric hospital to test this paralysis.
Yeah, right.
And they started.
Could that stuck with you for a while?
Well, they started doing needle tests and saying, "Can you do this? Can you do this?" At one point or another, they realized I was either psychiatrically. They said, "You're malingering." And I said,
that what they
I said, "No, I'm not malingering.
Yeah.
I really can't move my right arm, my right leg. There's
Right.
terrible pain."
And
It was a form of malingering. I did not want to go.
Right.
I did not want to go from the point of basic training to getting either killed or seeing other people get killed and be in the war.
Not to the point where you would have done like Muhammad Ali did.
Well, it kind of did that.
You know? Yeah.
So what happened is that there was the Surgeon General of the Army at that time was a Jewish guy named Glass, and this was at Fort Sam Houston in Brooks Army Medical Center. They had me. They finally brought me there for neuropsychiatric treatment to see what was wrong with me, and they were convinced that I was malingering, and then it was proven because one night this buddy from Brooklyn and I, next bed to me, was
went out on the town or something?
We went out.
Had a great talk.
We went into San Antonio in our pajamas.
Kicked up your heels, right?
And we got arrested.
Well, how do you account for the fact that you were able to do that? Were you malingering? Were you faking it?
Absolutely.
You know, in the hospital, you were faking it?
Absolutely.
Oh, you were? You were an actor. You had taken lessons in Stanislavski.
Yeah, well, I imagine.
Yes.
I was very good at it, but I wasn't good at it.
So you were trying to get over.
I wanted to get out.
Yes,
I wanted to go back.
I want to get out, right?
I wanted to go back to Broadway.
Right.
You know, I was drafted off of Broadway.
Right, they come and take you, yeah. They don't have that now. If they had that now, you'd have a lot more reaction to Iraq and... now it's all contracted.
I was between a rock and a hard place.
Yes, Iraq and a hard place indeed. But now they got all this Blackwater and stuff. They hire people. They're mercenaries.
So listen to the way it worked out. And my family was the least pro-Jewish or pro. We were very sort of worldly universalist. Everybody in the same family. We were leftists.
We're good people.
Yeah, we're good people.
Yeah, right.
We're good people of the world.
In a bad world.
Whether they're Christians, Jews, we didn't care. We were Jews.
Right.
So this Jewish Surgeon General has me wheeled into his office, and he says, "Well, we're going to have to give you spinal taps to find out whether there's any real nerve damage." So I took one, and then he called me back. He said, "We're going to give you another." I said,
What does it mean? What does it mean to have a spinal tap?
They stick a long needle in and they draw fluid out of your spine.
It's serious stuff, isn't it?
It's very serious.
Yeah.
You can't sleep for.
But what happened about the night on the town? Was that before the spinal?
That was before, and they said, we've got all these records that you were dancing in San Antonio.
And doing the limbo.
In a bar in San Antonio with all these hookers.
Right. Yeah.
And what they didn't know is that behind that bar, we were all smoking crack.
Right, on top of it. Right.
So the next thing I know is he says, "Look, they're starting to set up a court-martial.
Yeah,
really. They just shot this guy. I forget the guy's name, but there was one
for malingering, or
there was one soldier shot a conscientious objector that lost his case and got shot. Got killed.
Really?
Get his name.
We should get his name and make a statue or something. We should do something
during the Korean War.
That's something that should be paid attention to. Yeah.
Well, it should be a film made about it.
Yeah, absolutely. What a film.
Yeah.
Maybe you should make one.
Maybe I should.
Maybe you're a great filmmaker. You do all kinds of stuff.
Maybe I should.
Anyway, you got, and then
anyway, this Jewish guy.
Yeah.
So I said, he says, I spoke to your father. I said, what? He said, I called Harry. Harry Baker's my father.
Yeah.
And he said, he wants you to go back to duty. He doesn't want you to be court-martialed. He doesn't. And I think.
Yeah, court-martial is serious. Yeah.
I think being he's a good Jewish father and I'm a good Jewish man. And he started giving me this bullshit about. So either you go back to duty, or I'm going to have to let the surgeon, the adjutant general, take over this case.
Yeah.
And we're going to prove that you are malingering.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. He says, but I'm going to give you any opportunity that you want because of who you are. Because I know you've been on Broadway, and you're a good kid. And
right. Yeah, and that would have gotten across.
Yeah,
and that would have gotten across. Yeah, right.
So I said, well, what do you mean you're going to give me what I want? He says, well, where do you want to go?
I'd
I
like
said,
to
well,
go to Europe.
I don't want to go to Korea.
Yeah.
So he says, I know that.
Mm.
You want to go to Europe? So I said, that sounds nice.
Yes. Perry,
He says, will you sign up for 2 more years?
4 more. That's
no,
4.
It was a 1 year up. I had 1 year to go.
Oh, I see. You've been in a year.
I'd been in a year.
Mhm.
And he said, I said, okay. I said, Austria. He said, Austria, Italy, France. It's called USERA Special, and I'll get you orders for special services.
Wow, special service. That could be entertaining.
You'll make shows. You'll do shows.
Great. Okay. Go for
So
that.
I got 2 years in Europe.
Oh, good. I must have been-
Civies. I did 3 films.
Uh-huh.
I did shows. I did musical comedies, and so it was an ad mix.
Congratulations on that
my
lucky
army-
break, young
my
man.
army career was an ad mix. I
Yeah.
fought like a devil not to go and kill anybody,
Yeah.
which
right.
I thought I had the right to do.
Right. Right.
And then I got a big prize,
Mm-hmm.
and I ended up doing a film with Akim Tamirov in Germany, and a film with
A film with? What do you mean? Acting in front of camera or
acting.
acting?
Yeah, in what they called Runaway Productions.
Well, wait a minute. They had a film thing going. Was it part of the army?
No,
the thing,
no,
or
these
what?
were private. Well, you know.
How did you get people from the army to go serve and to make a film for the private
Well,
sector?
they knew I was an actor from Broadway.
Okay.
I was directing and acting in shows that I was doing for the USO
right.
and for the.
I
Europe-
see. That was the
European
gig.
theater.
Then that was the gig.
That was
yeah.
my gig.
Yeah.
So, when this company, Princess Pictures, came to Munich,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a really the German golden cinema had the era was made at Geisel-Gasteig in Munich.
Uh-huh.
There's like a 20th century Fox, or like a Hollywood
Really?
in
Okay.
Germany.
Yeah.
That in the 30s was Fritz Lang and all those
Fritz
great
Lang was great.
all those
yeah.
great German directors.
He did
went on.
M?
No, I didn't know, but this was now in the 50s.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
And it hadn't gotten bombed out.
Uh-huh.
Because it was only 5 years after the
It was
5,
in the
6 years.
50s you were there?
Yeah, I was there in 51.
51? Well, it was
6
pretty,
years after the
It
bombing.
had pretty been
Oh, it's
bombed. When the
totally,
Soviets
totally
moved in, it was totally.
I was like destroyed. I was so happy
Yeah, right.
that we did that to
Mhm.
them motherfuckers.
No, right. No, I can understand.
You know,
but-
I mean, I still live with that about about the Germans and the Holocaust. I have to live with that.
Yeah, it was
Although
a real
it's very
wacko
difficult,
thing.
very
it was wacko,
difficult
yeah.
to live with a sense that I'm a non-prejudiced and a
Yeah,
very
I understand
liberal
exactly.
and progressive
Yeah.
human being.
Yeah.
But there's no way that I'll ever forgive the Holocaust or ever forget the Holocaust.
Yeah, right.
So when I went there, and was a kind of a young star, so to speak, in German cinema, not in German cinema, it was American runaway cinema. They
Okay.
were trying to beat the unions by going to Germany and
That's
making
interesting in itself, yeah.
cheap
right.
television films.
Right.
So these were like 5-day wonders.
Right.
They were shot in 5 days
Uh-huh.
and then sent here, and people started seeing me on TV
Mhm.
in leading roles,
TV was coming then, yeah.
in secondary leading roles. So
Mhm.
I started my career was kind of working while I was still in the Army.
You like that acting, right? Still
Oh,
do?
yeah,
You
yeah.
still
Well,
like
no,
it?
when I got out of the Army
Mhm.
and went back and
You got an
life.
honorable, you said.
Yeah, I was
Okay,
honorably
good.
discharged.
Okay, good.
Nothing, nothing bad followed from
Oh,
those
yeah.
those situations.
Yeah, it was a rite of passage. in a
everything
way.
good followed. I did sign up for the extra year.
Did you learn something about how to lead life?
I think so.
Yeah, okay, good.
think so.
Could
I
that
thought-
lesson could be passed on to the youth?
Oh, very much so.
Yeah,
I thought
okay.
that there's certain lessons that you have to bite the bullet and do. And
Sometimes you have to take
Yeah.
extraordinary effort to
I would think.
do the
I
right
would
thing.
think.
Do the right thing is what it is, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
avoid the wrong thing.
Well,
when there's so
I
many
don't know
forces
if- I
trying to
don't know
make
if-
you do the wrong
I
thing,
don't
like
know
go
if-
out and kill somebody.
I don't know if acquiescing to a military
Yeah,
service
right.
was doing the right thing.
Well,
I wouldn't send my son.
But
to
they
the
had
military.
that damn draft, and it was really, they had that in Vietnam too. They were drafting people. They got huge, 500,000 people sent over to Vietnam to kill, Viet Cong, and that was great. Ali, the best 2 years of his life, he just said, "I ain't going."
Well, I was with him.
Ain't no
100%.
Viet Cong ever called me a nigger, he said.
I was
You know?
with him 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, so you got into film. You knew Lenny Bruce.
Well, I didn't meet Lenny until the early 60s, 4 or 5 years before he died. Met Lenny.
Mm-hmm.
But that was through being out of town
Yeah.
with shows. Because when I got out of the Army,
Yeah.
the string of shows I did on Broadway was fabulous.
Really? I didn't realize that you had all that background.
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
I did a ton of shows on Broadway as
Good
an
for you.
actor, then
Yeah.
as an actor, stage manager, assistant director.
Yeah.
I worked with a guy named Peter Glenville
Okay.
from London who had done Separate Tables, Take Me Along.
Mhm.
I did a batch of shows. Rashomon, Peter directed, and I was the understudy to Rod Steiger.
Is that the same as the same idea as the film?
Exactly the
Yeah.
same idea as a
Great
film.
film, great
Written by a
film.
couple of Hollywood,
Yeah.
Kay and Faye Kanan.
Well, Rashomon was set in Japan.
No, but they did a Broadway show with Claire Bloom, and Rod Steiger. Rod
Wow.
Steiger played the bandit.
No kidding.
I
yeah?
understudied him.
I didn't know that.
Oscar Homolka was in it.
Uh-huh.
Akim Tamirov.
Oh wow! Yeah.
So I
wow.
got to really play.
Did you get to do any more singing and did you ever do any hoofing or any dancing?
Well, I
or-
sing now. I sing
Yeah,
now.
I know
with,
you sing. I could hear you.
I sing now with Barry Harris.
Really?
Who's a
Barry
brilliant-
Harris is just.
He's
You
a-
did a little thing recently, didn't you? About
It's a bop piano player
okay.
who's one of the most respected jazz musicians alive.
Really?
He's
Okay.
he's like a legend, a treasure. He's a
Uh-huh.
United States treasure.
What do you mean when you sing?
Well,
You
he's
sing
an
where?
educator. He's
Yeah,
an
but
e-
you sing where?
He's got a workshop, a jazz workshop.
And
It meets Tuesday nights right around the corner here on 65th Street.
Oh, kidding! You,
And it
you go
goes
every
for-
Tuesday
goes
like
for
that?
7 hours. He's
Good.
got
No kidding. 7 hours.
vocalists, Instrumentalists, like 80, 90, 100 people. show
What do
up.
they do? They put it on tape? They do something with the
No,
stuff,
they
or is it just a
everybody
thing?
watches Barry play the piano, and then all the singers sing a song that Barry teaches you. And
What a great thing,
in
man!
fact,
That's
the
great.
fact is, I started the evening out, our thing out with hide your dreams from sight, instead of so that night it can happen to you. Well, that was the song
It
we
Can
just.
Happen to You was a famous song.
Well, that was a song we just. Well, we learn all famous songs,
Uh-huh.
but we learn them in a jazz idiom,
Okay.
and so I've never given up singing.
Okay. Singing is great.
Singing is
You know
my,
what they used to do a lot? We had a place in Detroit when I was in the university called the Dakota, and a lot of Germans out of Dakota, but it was like a Rathskeller. And you would go there, we would go there, you couldn't get in. It was there. It was just wonderful because they had a guy playing the piano. They had big round oak tables, and they sat around and
drank.
pitchers of beer. And everybody, after 2 or 3 pitchers of beer, thought they were Caruso. And everybody sang songs like George M. Cohen and the old songs that
The old
everybody knew.
songs.
They don't do that anymore.
You know, there's just
I don't know why the kids don't. So they're so alienated. They're all like berets with
Well,
cigarettes.
they all know.
dragging-
They all know these rap.
Yeah, but
tunes
they
and
don't
stuff.
sing.
No, they all
You know how
don't.
they used to sing? You know what I mean?
I'm sure kids sing. Though.
They don't sing. They don't ever sing. They
Well,
just
what
watch.
About, what about the American Idol thing? And don't they get up and sing?
I don't know. It seems like nonsense to me. It's not like the Rathskellers, and people used
No,
to
it's
sit
not
around
like
link
that.
arms, and everybody would sing, and it was wonderful.
Yeah.
Everybody would just,
Communal.
yeah, it
Well, you
was
know-
good. Or
you know, I
Asties.
just
They
saw-
used to have Asties. Remember
just saw-
Asties with the opera singers on 34th or
Oh
something?
yeah, I remember that.
Remember Asties? The guys would be singing. The waiters would sing.
Yeah, well, they all
tilt,
singing-
full
opera
tour
singers
opera.
work
Yeah.
there as
Yeah,
waiters,
yeah,
yeah.
they waited there. Yeah, but they don't sing anymore. Everybody's so alienated or something. Since the Beatles, they haven't. Nobody sings.
Well, you know, I
anymore.
just saw Paul McCartney,
Did you? Yeah.
and in a Frank Lesser tribute, the Actors Fund
Yeah.
gave a tribute, or an Actors Fund benefit
Yeah.
show in tribute to Frank Lesser, who wrote Guys
Okay.
and Dolls.
Yeah.
So, who also was another, we spoke about Johnny Mercer.
Yeah.
We can speak about Frank Lesser
Yeah.
on another level.
I
at
got
least
Johnny
musical
Mercer
comedy.
with the Pied Pipers.
Well, yeah, let's talk about Frank Lesser.
Okay,
So-
sorry.
So there's this benefit performance just about a week ago,
Yeah.
the Actors Fund that I attended. And I live in the Actors Fund building on 57th Street, so we get a lot of tickets.
Right.
And who gets up to sing a song but beside Garfunkel, Art Garfunkel got up and sang
Great.
Frank Lesser. Paul McCartney gets up, and they were all screaming.
He was there?
Screamed.
Yeah.
Yeah, he came out to sing a song in benefit for the Actors Fund.
Wonderful.
He's just a wonderful guy.
Great guy. Yeah.
So he says something like to the effect of, he says, I grew up on these songs.
Yeah.
He says, in
England they would
in
sing,
Liverpool.
yeah.
He
Yeah.
says, when I was growing up,
You
he
have to
says,
sing songs.
He said, when I was 7, 8 years old, he says, we'd go to parties, and the uncles the uncles would sit around singing these songs.
Right. We used to do it in our house.
And-
My mother would play the
yeah.
it's so what Frank Capra or something that they'd sing, and we'd all stand around and sing
Yeah,
songs.
there's a great
And people
film.
knew the words to the lyrics, and they
Yeah.
would sing, and everybody thought they were Caruso
something,
after a couple of beers.
distant lives, distant lives. There's a great what's his name? I forget his name. Terry. Oh God, Davies.
Davies,
A filmmaker
yeah.
named Davies.
Okay.
Distant Lives. It's all about this, about the English.
Sing song.
Give us a song.
Yeah.
Come on, baby, give us a song.
Yeah. Right.
You know,
right.
Which was all and then all
Right.
of a sudden they'd sing, and so Paul McCartney gets somebody, and just as simple as pie,
Yeah.
he sings, I'd like to get ya on a slow
boat to
China. Yeah. And everybody went
On
crazy. It
to
was like
myself alone.
it was like Frank Sinatra time.
Yeah, they used to make good songs like that. Anyway, we got to keep moving along. Oh, you touched on Lenny. I know you were friends with him and everything.
Made a
Made a
film.
major film. When did you start turning your artful way of being into filmmaking?
I went from acting and stage managing on Broadway
Mm-hmm.
and to directing plays on the road
Uh-huh.
with stars
Right.
for about 10 years.
Okay.
You know,
That must have been exciting.
I'm almost 80,
Are you really?
Well, I'm 77.
You're
78.
70. God, you
78.
you don't seem that. You don't see. You're well put together.
No, well, I'm not that well put
You're not
together.
well put together.
I live on a breathy and a
Oh,
walk.
you got that damn emphysema.
Anyway, long
Okay,
story
yeah.
short.
Yeah, right.
So I went to some stage managing and acting on Broadway
Right.
to directing what we called stock shows or touring shows that went around the country.
And that's a major thing. That's
And
directing.
then,
that's
then
in
I had
theater.
a bunch
That's
of kids.
theater.
I had 3 kids like
Yeah.
in 2 years. I
Yeah.
had twins and a young boy.
Okay.
So in the early 60s, I started to realize that there was no living in the theater. I
Yeah.
really couldn't raise a family.
Well, the arts in general you can't do anything with because you have
As
to
an
be an
actor.
accountant.
I'm
No, I
actor.
mean the arts in general are not supported,
Yeah.
particularly in the United States. You just starve.
And I had
If somebody
this-
comes home and says, "I want to be an actor, I want to be a poet, I want to be a writer," don't do it. Take up accounting because it's the mundane
Well, I had to make a
stuff.
switch.
All right.
I had to make a switch.
Yeah.
So I got myself a job, and this was not the smartest money switch, but I did get a job at
Yeah.
Channel 13
Okay.
as a writer, producer, an associate producer, writer, director.
Okay, getting into television.
And I started doing a show called Wednesday Review,
Okay.
which was like a kaleidoscopic show.
Okay.
And I had to shoot because the budget was like $1,200 a week
The budget for the whole
for
thing.
the whole hour.
Okay.
And we, what was his name? Pete Hamill was our host.
Pete Hamill, yeah.
And Albert Goldman, Dr. Albert Goldman from Columbia University. Albert's dead. He was a great musicologist.
Okay.
And he was our host.
Mm-hmm.
And we just did what was current. It was really the precursor of shows like 60 Minutes.
Yeah.
So it
Oh, it was news or-
it was a
yeah.
jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah.
It was more than news. It was kind of what's happening
You
in
couldn't
society.
put. I don't know. 1,200 is hard to
It was
put a
news.
finger. No, but $1,200. It was a half-hour show. You couldn't put
No,
it
it was
together.
an hour.
An hour.
That's what
$1,200
Channel 13
to put the whole thing. That's not a hell of a lot of money.
No, it was a very small amount
Yeah.
of money. So
Yeah.
they gave me an IMO.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you know what an IMO is.
I'm not
It's
sure.
it's a wind-up 16 mm camera.
Okay, right.
And it basically does have some sound sync. You'd have to pull the sync up anyway. Long
That was
story
before
short,
they had the video cams.
They
and
didn't even
stuff?
give me a. They didn't even. Oh, way back. We were shooting film.
Before they had the porta pack.
and they said if you
whatnot.
want to do interviews.
You were doing film, right? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to do interviews
Mm-hmm.
for this kaleidoscopic show, and I had to do interviews.
Right.
Because we couldn't do anything with production. We had to fill in little clips from the street. So we're doing shows like about psychedelia
Yeah.
in that time, which was 1966, 67, 68.
Okay,
or
that was
six-
just before the video. You had to use a Steamback or something to do the editing, or how did
Well,
you
we
do the
didn't
film?
edit it. They were on video tape editing. They were
They
in
were.
1-inch tape, but you couldn't
1
shoot
inch,
on
yeah.
1-inch tape.
Right,
Everything you had to
right.
do was either done in a
Yeah, it was a huge Ampex machines that were
either done in a
institutional.
16
Yeah,
16
yeah.
millimeter Bolex.
Right,
And I had to go out and shoot
Mm-hmm.
and then bring it in somewhat put together.
right.
So the editors could then slip
Right.
it in like you're going to slip in my trailer.
Yeah, well now we got a
And I
mini
learned how
DV.
to make films
Yeah, okay,
by
yeah.
being a writer, producer,
I
director
see.
in
Right.
television.
Okay. Good. Yeah.
And at some point or another, which got to be boring to make $500 a week at Channel 13.
Uh-huh.
I still wasn't making a tremendous living, and I've never made a tremendous living.
No, but you've done well with what you got.
I decided that I would become an independent filmmaker.
Okay, good for you, yeah.
So I moved over.
When did you make that switch?
So,
well, about what year?
1969.
About
I made my
69. That was a major break point.
I
in the
made
whole
my first
zeitgeist.
film,
Yeah.
and I decided on a sexual topic.
Okay.
Because I knew it would make some money.
Well, there's sex is always
gain
good for,
some attention.
Right. Yeah.
And I made a film called Events.
Events. Okay.
So, and you'll see that if you play. Well, if you play some of these clips I brought you, you'll see a little piece of Events. And then I made Lenny Bruce Without Tears.
Now, wait a minute. That was Lenny Bruce Without Tears, and you had known Lenny and gotten some footage? How did you come to that?
No, I came to all the footage through Channel 13 because they wouldn't let me make the program on Lenny.
But you knew Lenny.
I knew Lenny.
And Lenny would crash with you sometimes.
Yeah, but this was after he died. I was working at 13 after he died.
But you had known him.
But I was able with 13 to amass a tremendous amount of footage.
Okay, good.
Because I notified all the other educational TV stations. I
Right.
said, I'm doing a program on sick comedy.
Okay, good.
And they
called sick comedy, black comedy.
Remember they called it sick comedy.
Yeah, right,
and
right.
Lenny was the icon of
penultimate.
sick. He was the penultimate
he
sick comedian.
He was great, yeah.
And so
another one, George Carlin. I just wept when he passed.
Oh, God,
Carlin was brilliant.
Carlin, if anything, was the complete refinement and blossoming of everything Lenny was trying to do with his experimentation with language and jokes. And
I really did. I wept when he passed.
breaking the so-called.
Yeah, but back to the filmmaking. And
so what happened was that they said, well, we don't want to make. This was Ford Foundation.
Oh, really?
All the money.
That's big time.
13 was Ford. WNET was
right,
Ford Foundation.
Yeah.
So they said, well, Kiermaier, and he was the head of it, some Nazi guy, you know. So he said, what is this you're doing on this dirty talking dope fiend? I said, who's the dirty talking dope fiend? He says, aren't you doing work on Lenny Bruce in our offices?
Yeah.
I said, yeah, I'm putting together a show on sick
Icon,
comedy.
He will live down the ages, sir.
I'm putting together a show on sick comedy. Well, this is like so typical of what happened to me in the Army, you know.
Yeah, right.
Like, and I said, and he said, well, you can't do that. Get rid of all that stuff. It's just disgusting.
We want Pat Boone.
This was the head of Channel 13.
Yeah, right.
So I said, you got to be kidding.
You got to be kidding is
I
right.
said, screw you. Stick this job up your ass.
You didn't say it out loud. But
yeah, very out loud.
You did, and you left.
He said, and he went back like this. I said, I'll take that stuff out. I'll do something with it. That's some good stuff.
Yeah.
I said, Lenny Bruce is good stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I went out and lost my job at 13 that night. And thank God.
Mm-hmm.
And then just told my family, I said, look, I'm going to just make the things I want to make.
Okay, let's tick them off a little bit, because we got to let them know about your site. What is it? Let's say it right now.
www.filmsbyfredbaker.com.
Filmsbyfredbaker.com. Okay, and you got a bunch, and you've done them, so tick them off, and we're going to show, got a couple clips we got to show we get it in.
There's Events.
That was the one that was sexy?
Yeah, very sexy.
It was hardcore?
Some hardcore.
Yeah. And
Grove Press, I made it for 35
Grove Press,
grand.
God bless Grove Press.
And Grove Press bought it for 350 grand. So
no kidding. You made it for how much?
35 grand.
35, and you sold it for
16 millimeter.
350.
Yeah.
That's a big markup.
That gave me the right to say, okay, I've arrived at filmmaking.
I would say so. You could live in a mansion.
Yeah, no.
It must be nice living in
mansions
work that way. And swimming pools.
The guy who lent me the money to make Events was a mob guy, and he took half the money.
Oh, I see.
That's a funny story.
That's a vigorous. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So Events, then Lenny Bruce Without Tears.
Mm-hmm. Lenny Bruce Without Tears was in, and that's on your site too. I mean, links to these are on your site.
Things are on my site. Everything I've done. White
so
Trash.
Let's give them that. Films
by
FredBaker.com. Okay, yeah. So the thing on Lenny Bruce was how long was that?
It's about an 84-minute film.
84 minute full lecture.
Yeah, all my films are. Well, I did make a short film when I first got married, a dance film with Donald McHale and the Martha Graham dancers called On the Sound.
Okay, good.
And then I made some experimental shorts on my own when I left Channel 13, just to see if I could learn how to put stuff
So were
together.
you doing editing at that with 16 millimeter on a Steenbeck, or how was it?
No.
Were you taping things together
no,
and everything?
stand-up moviola.
A moviola.
Learn
right?
how to run my own stand-up movie.
How'd you like that? You like the editing in that?
Well, you
era?
ripped film all day long. You ripped
Right.
up work prints like crazy. I mean, you'd be feeding film in and soundtrack in and running your pedals and looking at it, and they're all, I mean, it would all blow up in your face.
Yeah,
and the
yeah,
film
yeah.
would rip, and you have to spend a half a day putting a piece of film together.
But it's really creative. They can do that now with automated systems, so where they can get a million things going all at once
well,
with the computers and all that.
I
And
eventually got on a table.
there's an art to that. There's
Oh,
an
yeah,
art
yeah.
in that. It must be satisfying when you get the right sound and the sound comes and all
well,
that.
that's the
it's
most
creative,
exciting.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the most exciting part of filmmaking.
Major part of it, communication now in the
what
world.
you just said is like the thrills that you get
Yeah.
when you
It works.
put a sequence of images together,
Yeah.
and you say, "Let me see if this piece of music
Preview.
makes that work."
Yes, right.
And you slip that into the sound,
And it works, and you know it
sounding,
works.
and you go, "Oh, it
Right.
really works."
Mozart would have loved to have been able
Yeah.
to do that if
Yeah.
he could have with
Yeah.
his things.
That's
yeah.
the beauty of it.
Yeah, it is right, and you're really intrigued
Yeah,
with
you
all
get
of
intrigued with that, and you never. It's as much as being in a Broadway show and deciding, this is nice.
that. Really,
When they
yeah.
go, yay, and they
There's
applaud at the end.
there's a sort of a borrowing within the artistic community,
Well, yeah,
or
there's certain,
creativity. Yeah,
There's certain levels of where the reaction to what you've done, or your own reaction to how you match something.
right,
In film editing, it's that.
Yeah.
Being able to match stuff
right.
or juxtapose things
Yeah.
that really make it click. It's almost like the punctuation
Yeah.
of great language,
Right.
of Shakespeare. You know, you read Shakespeare, you say, well, how did he ever
Right.
get to be able
Yeah.
to put that together
Right,
in that
right.
pentameter,
Yeah,
in that
right,
way,
yeah, yeah. Well,
and
that's
say those things?
Yeah.
Well, you can do that with film and sound, with visual and sound.
increasingly now. We got Final Cut Pro and all this stuff, and every kid in Amos, Iowa, can do all kinds of
I
editing.
love the
I think
others.
it's good that there's so much
Yeah,
opportunity.
I like
don't
that.
you?
I like
yeah.
that. But you know what? I have to use somebody to do that.
I beg your pardon?
Well, with my recent film, I did do only, did work in video.
Yeah, Final
'Cause
Cut.
I work very low budget.
Yeah, right.
And Final Cut Pro is great, but
It is.
I haven't mastered that.
You haven't matched.
So I use somebody.
You
I
use
sit
a
and-
kid. You need a
Not a kid.
5-year-old
Well,
or a teenager.
35-year-old.
Yeah, somebody who knows how to do
Yeah,
it.
not 75-year-old.
Isn't it becoming easier and more user friendly so that people can really do it
I think
without
so.
all the bullshit that you have to
Well,
go through in order to have it work right? And everything?
I think you've.
You know what I
I think
mean?
there's
They
something
can
that-
make it easier all the time.
Yeah, but there's something about the
In,
these-
out, that, and you don't have to have all the rendering and all the things you have to do. It's such a
Oh,
pain in the
it's-
neck. The
it's so-
computer is so confusing, and needlessly so. It seems to me it's getting more and more accessible to people. I think.
Well, it is. I
Yeah.
mean, it's accessible to filmmakers. There's so many young people that are getting their facility with it because they grew up with the computer.
Right. I know. I saw a 5-year-old. I went to a thing with it. No, he's 7. He was 7 years old. He was playing the damn thing, the computer, complex computer, like Vladimir Horowitz plays the piano.
Well-
and I was chagrined and also very encouraged.
Well,
that
that's-
a 7-year-old kid was sitting there,
That's
and he was
a-
playing the thing, and he knew how to make it all work as though everybody knows how to do it.
That's
It's
a bit of-
encouraging.
You gonna let me talk, Harold?
Yes. Sorry.
That's a bit of a bring down. Is that I'm not as facile with that work, whereas I was with the stand-up moviola.
Yeah.
And I miss that. So when I sit next to an editor who's going ding, 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 and numbers and this and that,
It's frustrating.
it's
yeah.
a little frustrating.
Yeah, well, that's the thing of age, I think. Me
Yeah.
too. I'm the same way.
You know,
yeah,
it's
I
a little-
can't.
It's
Yeah.
a little frustrating.
One of the problems in life in general, maybe in the whole evolution of everything and everything like that, is that there's this problem of time. We don't have enough time. Fred, we could talk to you for 25 hours without a stop. We could do that. We
I
could
bet
sing
we
songs.
could.
We could
I
do soft
bet we
shoe,
could, Harold.
all kinds of things, but we got a clip, and we want to get to that because one of the most recent
Yeah.
things that we brought in was about Asada, right?
Yeah, I
So
did-
maybe we could set
well-
that up, make sure we get it in because we're coming toward the end of the hour, brother.
Okay, let's
Okay.
get it in
Yeah.
because this is a film I truly, truly believe in,
Mm-hmm.
and I think all of the exhibitors and the festivals and the distributors are fucking chicken-livered.
Yeah.
Excuse my language.
Oh, that's all right.
But I got to say that
That's all
because
right.
this is a film that goes really against the grain
Mhm.
in that it's about a girl who's in Cuba,
Mhm.
never did a damn thing wrong except raise her fist for liberation of the black
Remember
people.
those guys in the thing when they raised their fist?
Yeah,
They got
and
trouble
that's
for
all
that.
she ever did.
Yeah.
She was targeted by COINTELPRO.
Yeah, that
she was,
damn COINTELPRO. Yeah.
She was shot.
Mm-hmm.
She was wounded. She was falsely accused, falsely convicted, and she can't come back to the United States.
Yeah.
And I made a film about her. And
You
her
did
name is-
indeed.
And her name is Asada Shakur.
Yeah.
And I made a film called Asada, a.k.a. Joanne Chesimard.
Yeah, that was
Now
her
you
name. And also it's got Barron in there, I think.
Charlie Barron's
Barron.
in it, yeah.
He's a good guy.
Yeah,
I
well,
mean,
play the trailer.
Yeah,
So-
okay, we got a trailer coming up, so let's see if we can set that up. We're talking with Fred Baker, filmmaker and artist extraordinaire, and let's see if we can't get that film rolling if we can.
She was hit 3 times in her shoulder, side, and back. She sat there bleeding. And then they lied about her. They would have you believe that as she lay there, slowly bleeding to death, she miraculously got out of the car, walked over to the fallen trooper, picked up his gun, and shot him twice in the head. They know she never got out of that car. But why was the trooper on the ground in the first place? They had no lie for that one.
That's it. Marshals, remove Mr. Kunstler.
Weren't you thinking it was possible that you might have killed the trooper yourself, wildly firing in all directions? Madly firing your gun?
Chesimard was convicted in the killing of Trooper Werner Foster and the wounding of another trooper in a furious shootout on the New Jersey Turnpike.
And she was convicted in a trial that was biased, bogus, constructed, and set up.
You can jail a revolutionary, but you can't jail a revolution.
They want her dead, Asha.
Christine Todd Whitman, when she was the governor, created a $50,000 bounty.
Governor Whitman herself went on TV and put a bounty on her head for $1 million.
Put $1 million bounty out for Asada. What that does is say, we're willing to pay for kidnapping.
Open the doors. You just decided to kill everybody.
Biggs, they started shooting again. Biggs said, he's good and dead now.
J. Edgar Hoover had already said that Black Panther Party and the likes, they had to be neutralized.
There's danger in the true telling of this story.
I need to know what's going on.
Don't you realize we're living in a police state?
I have to go to Cuba and meet her face to face.
Well, I'm not going with you, Asha.
You have to.
It's Cuba. My people is the rhythm, is music.
If we do nothing else in this generation, if we can pull this off, we will rock this world. We have to make a way for Asada to come home.
No doubt about it. A state trooper was murdered, but Asada Shakur did not commit that murder.
If you think you know this story, you should see this film. If you believe the lies about her, then you must see this film.
Well, okay, really good. Yeah, that's the trailer. Yeah, that's good. You had Kunstler in there, right?
I'm sorry, Kunstler. Yeah, I played Kunstler.
Yeah, you played him yourself. Yeah, how'd
like
you?
this.
Yeah, right.
He always had
Kunstler was great. Wasn't
well, he was
absolutely great. Yeah.
Yeah, he was.
But I saw something. Sean Bell. Did I see something?
Well, that was likening all the lies.
Yeah.
That police tell. Once they've killed, profiled the black and killed them, they just tell a whole bunch of lies about they had a gun. And,
they can do. They can do.
So Sean Bell, Amadou Diallo. All of these outright police murders.
Yeah.
And that's why the film, I can't get the film touched. I mean, now, finally, there's a bit of a breakthrough.
Yeah, okay.
In that I've convinced the IFC down on 6th Avenue. It used to be what was it called? The Waverly.
Millennium?
No,
Waverly. Okay.
It'd be called
the
Waverly.
They're going to show it? Yeah.
Now it's the IFC.
Yeah.
I haven't convinced them. They're taking a look at both Asada and another film that's a little bit part of what I've done.
Is that something we're going to try and show now? or
No,
not?
no, a
another.
film called The Murder of Fred Hampton.
Okay, good.
Which is another police murder
Mm-hmm.
by COINTELPRO.
Right.
You know, Assata was almost murdered, and someone in the back seat was
Right.
murdered.
Uh-huh.
There was the Panther Commissioner of Information, or whatever you want to call it, Minister of Information.
Yeah.
Who was one of high up in the Panthers, and there's Kathleen Cleaver's in the film as
Right.
well.
Okay, yeah.
So what happened is that I said, listen, why are you guys, you're constantly edging around the 60s, but why are we losing this Black Power movement? Is one of the most important periods of Black American history.
Stokely
First time they stood up and really spoke fiery words about we're going to get our rights in this
That's right.
society.
And there was one, I remember Kunstler.
All of a sudden now, nobody wants to ever talk about it. There were some great leaders.
Absolutely.
I mean, the Cleavers, Huey Newton, these were great black people.
Stokely Carmichael, Kwame Ture, yeah.
Who got up and held their fist up and were killed and assassinated.
Yeah,
by
and they had
J.
those
Edgar
two
Hoover.
guys. They had the thing with Muhammad Ali took that stand, and then you also had those guys at the Olympics
at
that
least
held their
they've
fist
covered-
up in Black Power, and they took a lot of flack for that.
Muhammad's such an entertaining figure.
Yeah, yeah.
That it's shunted off his whole thing about not
The
wanting to go
murder of all those people in Southeast Asia that was going on, and then
Listen.
it took, in order to get a president impeached, you had to have a cigar and a lady.
Okay.
What kind of a world is it where they can
No,
get
but
away
here's-
with murder
here's-
on a mass scale and not ever come in the
I mean,
dock?
I don't think too very many Americans know that there was close to 60 police assassinations in that period to put down that movement.
Yeah,
And that-
COINTELPRO, yeah.
And that movement and those 60 assassinations have gone unpunished.
Yeah.
I mean, they talk about finding somebody who's, 27 years ago may have shot his wife or something.
Yeah.
Oh, aren't we phenomenal?
Yeah.
Well, these cops went out and shot and killed close to 60 people.
That's right, and then nothing
to put
comes.
down. To put
I
down a
remember
movement.
once there was somebody Kunstler protected who was was it Davis? Somebody? There was somebody.
Angela Davis.
No, not. It was somebody. I don't remember exactly, but there was somebody who, when the police broke in and everything into the house or something like
Hampton. That's who.
that, he shot them dead. He shot the police dead, and they got him off for having defended himself. There was, I think it was Kunstler. There was somebody who actually shot back at the people who were attacking the house coming in.
In most situations,
That is not ever happening in most situations. But that happened in one
least
case.
in the Sada Shakur, there was
Somebody
no
got-
gunfire back at the police.
No, I know.
They could not. They
what
could
I'm
not
trying to
prove
say,
gunfire back.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is people protect themselves against the onslaught of a Sean Bell or a Diallo. They're going to come and shoot you down, and somebody's going to protect themselves. They should have a right to protect
They didn't even
themselves. That's
find
what
a
the
gun
Second
in those-
Amendment's about.
They didn't even find any guns.
No,
in
but
that
you make the
situation.
point. I'm
Yeah.
trying to make the point. People who stand up to the and then they're protecting their own. They won't tell. They won't. The truth can never come out because they're going to protect their own. The blue thin line against
Well, there you
all
go.
the. You know what
There you
I'm
go.
saying. That's
I
a
mean-
thing that you bring up in your film, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's really.
And no one will touch it. I mean,
No.
it's not that no one will touch it. I'm doing very well in the film being underground. People know about it.
Yeah.
I sell a few copies here and
Yeah,
a few
yeah,
copies
yeah,
there.
yeah.
But I mean, I've had turn downs by theaters that won't go near it.
Yeah.
They're afraid of New Jersey, or they'll come down on
There's
us.
so
There'll
many
be
channels on
pickets
cable now. There's so many channels now. There's hundreds of channels now. There should be a channel
Well,
that has
I've
really
gone
good
Sundance,
stuff.
I've gone IF.
And they
whatever.
put it. They won't do it. Touch
Won't
it.
touch it.
Okay, that's Sundance. That's IFC and that kind of thing. But there's others that are going to come, and so there's going to be a place for this kind of thing. Did you want to try and get another clip in, or am I wrong?
I do. I'd
Okay,
like-
we only got about 5 minutes, if
Okay,
that.
well,
so
then-
let's get it. How long is it, and what's
No,
the piece?
it'll show you a little bit of Lenny. It'll show you a little bit of events.
Okay, let's set that
Some of
up
the
and
other
run it
films.
and get it in before the close. We only got 5 minutes, gentlemen. Let's set that up and run it. And that we're talking again with filmmaker and artist extraordinary.
I've done most of my work very underground, very handheld, very whatever I could find. This mic, if I were ready to shoot tomorrow, I'd have that mic off of you right now, you know what I mean? Or that camera. So it was always catch a can in terms of being able to make movies, because whoever had the money. Events turned out to be a lucky shot for me, because once we edited it together and got it to be shown at the Elgin Theater, which was this sort of like the house for offbeat underground movies at the time. There were two theaters, actually. One in the West Village or Chelsea called the Elgin Theater, which is now the Joyce Dance Theater. And that was where events finally opened. Midnights, which was my idea. In fact, I became like the king of the midnights.
Hey, what are you, you nut? There's the Three Stooges, but hey, Curly, pop, Mo. Right?
Lenny Bruce was a friend of mine, and he had died in '66, and essentially there was a rush to what is the legacy of Lenny Bruce. As it's turned out, he's had quite a legacy in terms of a guy that was out there doing what we were all doing, which was making fun of the hypocrisy of the society at that time.
Will Elizabeth Taylor become bar mitzvahed?
Lenny didn't belong on television. He made it on college campuses and jazz joints. He was a stand-up comic who needed freedom. And in the early 60s, he thought he'd found that in places like the Red Hill in New Jersey, the Jazz Workshop, the Hungry Eye on the coast, and the Cafe Ogogo in the city. And in fact, he had. Married to Honey Harlow, his ideal Goyish chick, Lenny was snapping and bouncing his way through a life of one-liners. Honey bore him a girl child named Kitty. Lenny was happy. But when he and Honey weren't happy, they used drugs, mostly speed. And what it did was to make his comedy run a little ahead of his time. When Honey walked out on him, Lenny started to do routines about sex, about his own soul. He'd stand up and explore himself for laughs. And when he did it in front of the right audience, his performances rang with truth and beauty.
He liked me. First of all, he thought I was funny. I mean, he could make me piss in my pants, but he thought I was funny, and anyway, I started hanging
extraordinaire
with him.
Fred Baker. So good to see you, Fred. We only got a couple
seeing
minutes
you.
left. So how are you doing? How are things going? What do you got in the back burner for the time ahead? If we begin to look ahead, what films are rolling around in your
I've been
consciousness?
suffering with a little health.
Yeah, you
health
got that
setbacks.
damn business.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Like
yeah.
I just had a leg thing that laid me off. Actually, I'm starting to put something together now, but it's not really gelled yet.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain what it is.
Can you give us a little hint, Mr. DeMille? What your next film is? Is it going to be about birds? Is it going to be?
I work out of. I don't work out of script. I work out of like an interior. Thing that starts to interest me, and I start to do little research. That's why so much of my stuff is documentary.
Right.
That then I want to then intermix the hybrid of using dramatic aspects.
Right.
So then I start writing, or I start improvising with actors. It's very, very in the gestation period right now. It's hard to explain, but it's something about people striving in the arts.
Okay, big subject.
And selling out.
Yeah.
Having to sell out. The difficulty.
Well, generally everybody has to.
I'm very much with Michael Moore in some of his subjects.
Yeah, right.
And the difficulty of doing that in a non-federalized way, where you're subsidized, where you really have to work with the capitalist system that hates you for trying to be an artist. You know, there's
a huge theme. I can't think of a bigger theme that affects us all. I think it has larger implications for the whole organization of world society.
Young people striving to express and yet have to sell out and work in other ways in order to make it.
Yes, that's a big theme that's been written on a good deal.
We all know about that.
And we all know about